Hey guys, Scripture here with another video, and this video is going to be about George Lucas's sequels, his plans for them. I did a video about this a couple years ago, but this time I'm going to go a little more in depth about what their plan was, what his plan was with Leia, and how that impacts the bigger picture. And I'd like to hear from you guys what you think about that, about some of his ideas. It's kind of a little off-putting, but just before that, Mark Hamill had to clarify, because a lot of people, and I don't know why they were doing this, they were saying that he's quit Star Wars and he doesn't want to do it anymore and blah, 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 blah. But they forgot that, and I talked about this in a video a little while ago, last week sometime, that the reason he's not doing Star Wars anymore is because he's not being asked. Kathleen Kennedy made it very clear when they talked about future films that they're not going to have Luke in it anymore, and they're not going to have Force Ghosts and stuff like that. So he's not being asked. So he was forced to clarify. But he really should have just said this from the beginning. He should have said, I am done with it, but also they're done with me doing it, right? Which is the truth. Let me just say, they haven't asked me. It's not like they said, please come back. Come on, how much can you do with the Force Ghost? I'd like to see a movie set all in the Force Ghost realm. I can have conversations with Alec Guinness. He's probably saying that, obviously, facetiously. So this is what I said in my video before. Like, he wasn't being asked. Anyways, so let's move on to this whole thing with the George Lucas sequels. And so everything you're going to hear about here is from the Star Wars archives, 99 to 2005. And it's important to understand that because that's a while ago and a lot has changed since then. And so one of the things he wanted was the reemergence of Darth Maul as the antagonist, which at this point wouldn't work. He's dead. Obi-Wan killed him, right? On Tatooine for the second time. So that, I don't think he'd even be able to do that even if he wanted to. Could he bring Darth Talon in? I guess. But she'd have to have a different master, so that wouldn't really make sense. She was the new Vader, and most of the action was with her, so there were the two main villains of the trilogy. Maul eventually becomes the godfather of crime in the universe. Because the Empire falls, he takes over. Yeah, so he causes all these problems for the establishment of the New Republic. But this is where it gets a little off-putting for me. So Leia becomes really important in the New Republic. Perhaps the most significant and potentially controversial aspect of Lucas's planned sequel trilogy was the ultimate destiny he envisioned for Leia. His vision for her went beyond merely leading the New Republic. It elevated her to a status previously reserved for her father and brother, as Lucas elaborated in the Star Wars Archives book. By the end of the trilogy, Luke would have rebuilt much of the Jedi, and we would have the renewal of the New Republic, with Leia, Senator Organa, becoming the Supreme Chancellor in charge of everything. So she ended up being the chosen one. And in My Sequels Reimagined, she is the Chancellor. She starts as the general, ends up being the chancellor. But this is where it gets off-putting. You guys let me know how you feel about that. And it's weird to me that George would say this. So just picture this for a minute here. He does the original trilogy, right? It's great. It's all about Luke and his dad. It's all about family, blah, 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 all that stuff. Then he does the prequels and really dives into this idea that Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one who brings balance to the Force by destroying the Sith, which is playing off of the ending of Jedi, when ultimately Vader realizes, or Anakin realizes, he needs to save his son and kill this last Sith master, Darth Sidious, and he does. So I don't understand how you get to this. And it's kind of one of the things, it's kind of like with the Clone Wars, where they've muddied the waters and the Mortis gods and Anakin's role. And this is one of the things I keep saying about, keep it simple. Stop overcrowding it. It was a simple good and evil story. It was a simple hero's journey in the original trilogy. It was a simple fall to darkness, right? Simple reasons. I want to save my wife. That's, ultimately he was a selfish guy, but, that's a simple plot, really, if you think about it. With some things, you can throw in some nuance, during the films and stuff that incorporate that or add to that. I don't see how this would even work, because he already made Anakin the chosen one. So how would this even work? You guys let me know in the comment section. Is this like, this is where George Lucas kind of loses me when he's like, some of his ideas he comes up with, you're kind of like, whoa, easy, Georgie, that's not, And some of them are small and just kind of annoying. Like, for example, R2-D2 having little jets in Geonosis and flying around the factory, and me thinking, watching that, going, whoa, if he had those, there's many times in the OT those would have came in really handy. How come we never used them before? And so George comes up with some of these ideas, like those little things that are kind of annoying, but you can kind of get past them. But this is kind of nuts, as far as I'm concerned. This is a massive shift, redefining the very concept of the Chosen One, and expanding its scope beyond the traditional interpretation of a Force wielder destined to bring balance by defeating evil. Well, but that's what it was. George wrote it. While Anakin Skywalker was prophesied to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force through his actions as a Jedi, which he did, Leia's path as the Chosen One would stem from her ability to unite and lead, to rebuild a fractured galaxy, and to establish a lasting peace through her political prowess and unwavering determination. So he would have so think of how crazy this is. He would have taken this thing that he made that was about this mystery of the Force and turn it into a politically charged, like, how you rule the galaxy situation. That would have sucked. And this is again where George kind of, as Lucasfilm grew and as more money came in, and even throughout the prequels, he got more and more separated from like the creative idea guy and more into the businessman. And if you think about a Chosen One that's more based on an establishing an order in the galaxy, like a political order, that's more like a business guy. Like, ultimately, countries are essentially businesses. They have credit ratings, they have debt, they have, we're all part of this giant corporation, whatever country you're in. Some of them are doing very poorly and are corrupt, crappy companies. Some of them are doing better and are less corrupt and crappy. But you could argue that they're all essentially, like, in terms of how they function, they're basically like corporations. And that's where you want to go with the Chosen One? So then what do you even do with the prophecy then? The prophecy has nothing to do with political control. The Jedi were never supposed to be politically motivated. They did, part of their fall was illustrated in their becoming far too politically involved. They were always involved to a degree, but they were peacekeepers. And they were a separate entity. Certainly influential, but not running the show. It would be like if Yoda tried to become the Chancellor, if that was the case. But, so he's making the Chosen One into a political position and being able to run the galaxy properly. Like, what? I'm sorry, guys. You guys let me know in the comment section. That is awful. That ruins everything. And I'm really glad he didn't do this. The question now becomes, would this have been seen as better or worse than the sequels that we got? I would still say probably better, because there's certain things they did in the sequels that are unforgivable. Luke, all that stuff, some of the lore breaking, of course. But I think for a lot of people, this might even be considered worse. I could see the argument. Like, you've completely destroyed the whole point of the first 6 films in their entirety. Like, you could watch the OT on its own and you wouldn't get caught up with the Chosen One stuff and all that. But once you see 1 through 6, this completely takes a dump on his own established lore. And I find it funny that nobody talks about this. Like, all the very pro-Lucas or pro OT and prequel people, They kind of let George off the hook with this one. I haven't seen any videos saying like, whoa, Leia is the chosen one because of politics? What? No one's talking about this. Listen, I love what George Lucas created. I fully appreciate everything that he did, but I'm willing to say when something's dumb, and this would have been super stupid. This reinterpretation that would have been a bold move, challenging notions about who can be a hero in the Star Wars saga, and making the power of diplomacy, compassion, and governments just as important as the mystical powers of the Force. No, it's not that. See, this is where it's not challenging notions about who can be a hero. Leia doesn't have to be called the chosen one for us to appreciate her heroism. I wasn't appreciating Anakin's heroism when he was, strangling his pregnant wife through the Force. I'll tell you that much, even though I knew where it was all going to end. Leia could be extraordinarily heroic just in that role. You don't have to throw in the chosen one moniker to validate that. Like, this is where, again, this is super stupid. It would have provided a clear counterpoint to Luke Skywalker and the Jedi path, demonstrating that true heroism can manifest in many different forms, and that leadership, especially in the face of societal changes, is a heroic endeavor in itself. But nobody needs proof of that. Nobody needs proof of that. It would be heroic. What we need to see is just her doing that. It doesn't have to have the chosen one label on it. So that would have been super stupid. The direction would have significantly changed the dynamic between Luke and Leia, allowing Leia to ascend to a position of ultimate galactic leadership, rather than Luke remaining the primary focus as the last Jedi. Well, no, again, it doesn't have to be one or the other. This was the problems that they made in the Disney sequels, is that they thought that they had to go all in on Rey, even if it's unexplained and stupid, and make her just amazing and no flaws, so that we don't see Luke as a hero, and then on top of that, push Luke down so that she's elevated as the hero. No, you can do both. I don't understand why everyone's so stupid. Everything's so black and white, left and right. Like, there's nuance in life. You can write a story where, like I did, where Leia becomes the Chancellor, does amazing heroic things, has to go through difficult situations where she loses some stuff and some people and some things, but also gains some things and learns and changes and goes out a hero, while simultaneously having Luke preparing the next generation of Jedi and passing on his heroism in that way to those people, instead of just Rey knowing how to do everything without him and he's just a bum. There's a way to do both. Now, in the sequels, they did neither of these things, but why do we always get caught up in the one or the other? Like, Luke being heroic on the political end and the military end doesn't take away from or Leia doesn't take away from Luke being heroic on his end. They could both be. I never watched the original Star Wars and was like, oh, it's too bad Leia isn't on Luke's level. Like, nobody thought like that. You appreciated each character for what they brought to the table. This would have sucked. I'm sorry. While Luke would have been busy rebuilding the Jedi Order, a vital task in itself, Leia would have been tackling the grander, more complex challenge of establishing a stable and just government for trillions of beings. This emphasis on political leadership is the ultimate form of heroism, deeply ties in with Lucas's long-standing interest in the nature of democracy, which are themes that have flown through the entire Star Wars saga from the very beginning. By positioning Leia as the chosen one, based on her political achievements, Lucas would have delivered a powerful message about the importance of civic responsibility and the enduring power of hope and diplomacy and achieving true peace. Am I crazy here to think that they're kind of jumping all over this now because, everything has to be political and that's all the media ever talks about? So now they're jumping on this, making it political. Like, in terms of, it's all about civic responsibility and her political achievements. It's just, that's not what we want to see. We don't want to see the chosen one taken. See, and this is the problem too. And Lucas clearly at that time had fallen into this trap as well, where he can't imagine that people would view Leia the way he wants them to unless they take the chosen one from Anakin and give it to her. Like, guys, again, I love George Lucas, but I don't think he was the guy to do the sequels either. I think ultimately it would have taken a very special person that understood what they were doing. These are bad ideas. This is a bad idea. This approach would have also cemented Leia's legacy as a truly singular figure. She already is! Recognizing her intellectual strength, her unwavering spirit, and her impact on the galaxy far beyond Force sensitivity. What, so is Padme not a truly singular figure? Because she didn't, become Chancellor? Like, what are you talking about? Like, they're both awesome characters. I don't get... This is so stupid. It would have offered a more diverse definition of what it means to be a hero in the Star Wars universe, moving beyond the traditional Jedi to embrace the complexities of leadership. You can do both. The implications are the saga's themes of destiny versus free will would also have been fascinating. While Anakin's destiny was tied to the Force, Leia's chosen status would have been the result of her choices. What? His were choices too. He didn't even make the good choice till the very end. Her hard work and her natural talents, suggesting that true heroism can be forged through effort and conviction, not solely through preordained power. Yeah, because it wasn't solely through preordained power. He had to make the decision, and he made bad decision after bad decision until finally he made the right decision. What are you talking about? Why is it this underlying tone with all the media and people that, like, we have to, Leia's oppressed. We have to see things through this eyes, and she's the chosen one because the oppression of women. Anyways, what a stupid idea. Sorry, guys, if you're mad at me because you love George Lucas, I still love him too, but that doesn't mean he's perfect. This was dumb. Let me know in the comment section what you think. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. It always helps the channel. Feel free to check anything else on my channel. Have yourselves a really good day.